Well, guys, I come to you in a very irritated, pissed off mood, and we're going to jump right into it. It's about the food stamps being shut down and how it's going to negatively impact gamers and the gaming industry. So if you like this kind of content, like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. I understand we're going borderlines politics here. But just like when I covered the tariffs, I can't sugarcoat and pretend something isn't happening. So as you guys know, the government's been in a shutdown. Maybe you know, maybe you don't know. Maybe you live under a rock or whatever. Government's been in a shutdown, and now food stamp recipients are doing without. Whether you call it EBT, SNAP, whatever you call it. I call it food stamps. People are doing without, and one thing the gaming media is not talking about that I will talk about here is that will negatively impact the gaming industry and gamers, especially in the month of November. For those of you who don't know, the month of November is always the most profitable, biggest month of the year for gaming. It's the ramp up to the holiday season. And for a food stamp shutdown to happen now, especially, this is going to severely hurt game sales. And that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with how it's hurting game sales. Because when people are having to pick between using their money, since they don't have food stamps anymore, to buy food or to buy a game, they're going to buy the food. At least I would hope so. So that's going to lead to decreased game sales and overall hurts the gaming economy, which is already an industry that is somewhat struggling outside of Nintendo and Sony selling PlayStation 5s. Because the first thing that always gets cut when there's an economic downturn or a problem like this is entertainment. Trust me, even in your own lives, I'm sure you've considered cutting back on entertainment with the rising cost of rent and food prices anyway. But considering 42 million Americans are on food stamps, how many of those millions of Americans also game? Is the question. Probably tens of millions. And so they're being impacted by this and having to make tough financial decisions, which means games that come out this month, like Legend of Zelda Age of Imprisonment, a game I'm super excited for, or Call of Duty Black Ops 7, or the new Kirby game they've been hyping up, possibly. They all have the potential to do less sales now because of the situation, which hurts the gaming industry, it hurts stock, it hurts the ability for companies to recoup their investment and then sit there, turn around, and invest into games that are similar to that or games that are more creative and edgy. The reason you're having a creative despair in gaming a little bit is because developers, publishers, or whatever, they're willing to take less chances because we're in an economic downturn. This will only fuel the fire. On a personal level, to have a game you look forward to count on a budget where your food stamps was going to cover part of your food or all of your food, and to have that ganked away because a bunch of politicians can't agree on something stupid, sucks. Now you're doing without your game. Or you're also doing without your Doritos or your Mountain Dew that you would be buying as a casual snack while you're gaming. Okay? There's plenty of casual snacks that go hand in hand with gaming that are going to be suffering. And I know there's plenty of you online, because I've seen it, who want food stamps to only be for fish, meat, eggs, veggies, and fruit. Well, I got news for you. That's a bunch of fucking bullshit. Because I don't see what's wrong with a frozen TV dinner being heated up or a bag of chips being bought with food stamps. I personally think the WIC program sucks because that is so many different things that you can't buy, and you have to buy certain things, and you got to go through the list. Then the cashier's got to go through the list. Just give people the stipend and let them choose. Now, for those of you that are irritated, food stamps goes to people or helps people in need. Why do you care so much? Yes, it's your tax dollars. I get it. But until we cut foreign aid, why cut anything? It has to start there. Me personally, that's what I believe. But that being said, I don't want my fellow man to starve. I don't want my fellow gamer to starve. Hopefully they come to a resolution. But for those of you that are mad that there's so-called welfare queens on the dole, personally, I kind of believe in universal food stamps. Give it to everybody. Give it a flat rate to everyone that we can afford. And then have everybody start from that baseline. Then you can't complain. That's why I believe in the same thing for universal basic income and the same thing for Medicaid for all. Now, I know what you're thinking. RJ, stop. You're acting like a bleeding leftist lunatic. Hold up. I'm also for plenty of right-wing positions. I'm super pro Second Amendment. I'm very much anti-immigration, anti-illegal immigration. So, like, you're going to hate me on both the left and the right. I'm an independent thinker. I don't think, for example, I could be pro-choice, but also pro-death penalty. Okay? That's how I am. I don't have to adhere and check all the boxes of the Democrat Party or the Republican Party. Okay? And if you disagree with me, I also don't care. You could disagree with me, and you could still be my friend. And you could still be my subscriber. Hopefully, you feel the same towards me, if you might disagree on an issue with me. I know it can be really dicey to get involved into politics. One thing that I think we have mostly agreed on this channel is we're tired of woke bullshit in our video games. That's true. But we also have a right-wing sentiment where they want to ban certain things because they're too sexual for video games. So from both ends, we have this issue. And politicians, since they forced the ESRB rating to exist, they've really been sitting there always trying to blame video games. Republicans blame mass shooters on video games all the time. Democrats blame toxic masculinity on video games all the time. And I'm sick of it. Personally, stop blaming gamers. Stop blaming video games for all the world's problems. Obviously, it's the politicians and businessmen who got us here. And so I'm not against the social safety net. I would prefer we live in a world without them, if we can get to that point. But we're just not at that point right now. And I think what's going on with the shutdown is absurd. And it's going to hurt gamers. And it's going to hurt the gaming industry, which is already in a rocky spot in a lot of ways. Look how many layoffs we've seen. And with the future of AI, who the hell knows how deep the cuts could get in the future with jobs. And I'd hate to keep pointing this out, but it's so true why I harp on this with the jobs thing. When people lose their jobs, what the fuck are they supposed to do? How are they going to buy these AI robot products? How is society going to function if you have a super elite rich class that has it all and a poor class who has nothing? And then that's when people stand up and revolutions happen. Whether you like it or not, whether you want to be peaceful or not, that's how that happens. Because people need to be able to feed their families. So yes, on one hand, I'm against these dumbasses who come out there and say, we're going to loot, we're going to do it. I understand the frustration. But on the other hand, in the macro, I understand why our civilization in late-stage capitalism is collapsing, including the video game industry. Now, that being said, some strong sales numbers came out for Nintendo. Why is Nintendo doing so well? They're still the budget-friendly console. They are. Even at $450 or $500 for the Mario Kart bundle, it's still a better deal than current PS5, PS5 Pro, or Xbox Series prices, right? Or for higher-end PCs. Nintendo's still the budget model. They still do the traditional exclusive model, and it works really well. And for the most part, PlayStation does fine too. But they've mostly had to rely on being the third-party general box, right? And just sell units that way. And the base PS5 is still pretty cheap in comparison to other models. Meanwhile, Xbox has been floundering all year long. And they've been showing exactly what's wrong with gaming in a lot of ways. But either way, I don't want to go off on a tangent about that. My point is, look how many studios have been closed. Look how many projects have been canceled. It's not just Microsoft. There's plenty of... We saw Ubisoft fire people. You know, we've seen plenty of companies sit there and fire people. And if games don't get sold as well in November, when they're supposed to make their bread, that's just going to exacerbate the situation. So I know that it may seem like a small thing to nip on about how this affects the gaming industry, because it's more important than that to a lot of people. It's life and death when it comes to food. But I wanted to highlight it because you don't get this kind of talk from IGN. If you did, you would get it from a very left-wing perspective against Trump, if at all. But even they don't touch it. I'm willing to touch the issue. And the issue is, how can people who can't afford their food afford gaming that they used to be able to afford? And how can they even afford their snacks to eat while they're gaming? Again, may seem like a minor issue to you, but I'm trying to point out, watch out if November's numbers are down. And that's what I'm predicting, and that's what I'm sounding the alarm on for the entire industry. So let me know in the comments below. Were you affected by the food stamp shutdown? Are you having to change your holiday plans for what games you want? And, but this is RJ signing out. Have a good one. I'll see y'all later.